Self-esteem and self-discipline. Is there a connection? Today on the Daily Ish Show.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, ignition, liftoff.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Daily Ish Show. It is very good to see you. Daily Ish Show is a show for not just rental property operators or landlords or housing providers. It's also for anybody who is really interested in being time wealthy. So welcome to the Daily Ish Show. And my name is Mark Dolfini, your host, and we're going to get right into it. So what's the topic for today? Self-discipline versus self-esteem. Is there a connection? and at first, when I thought about it, I was introduced to this topic originally by a book written, I believe it was by Brian Tracy. And I think it was actually called No Excuses. Fantastic book. I really enjoyed it. This is one that I actually study quite often. And there may seem to be a logical connection between, well, if someone has self-discipline and they do things that are better, that will better themselves, there seems to be a logical and natural connection to self-esteem, right? And I think it's important to go a little bit deeper on this, just because, not just to say, well, the connection makes sense, but, I think it's important to know, like in terms of my case, I recognize that I didn't have either one of these things in my life until I was basically bankrupt of both, until they were both completely lacking in my life. And I'm not one I can't say that I've, struggled with that sort of thing very much. But I certainly have my demons where I wasn't feeling great about myself, and I would, do this self-deprecating humor where I'm just tearing myself down almost as a defense mechanism. And I'm thinking, man, like, why am I so harsh on myself? Like, if I talked to my best friend the way that I talk to myself, he wouldn't be my best friend anymore. So it was interesting that when I got really serious about building my self-esteem, whatever it is, starting a daily-ish show that maybe one person watches, or maybe 100 people watch, maybe 1,000 people watch, but whatever, there's no guarantee, and I might say something really stupid, and that's obviously going to withdraw from my self-esteem well, if you will, right? And there's some people, it doesn't seem like anything impacts their self-esteem, that they can just go and get rejection after rejection and they don't care, and they just muscle forward. It doesn't make a difference to them. It doesn't impact them. Their results don't impact their self-esteem at all. And I really thought it was interesting the way several different authors have related self-esteem like either like a pile of poker chips or like it's a battery. And if you have a big battery full of self-esteem, that you're more willing to use energy, because it doesn't deplete you. You have more energy to use for things that might deplete your self-esteem. If you only have a little teeny tiny battery and you use whatever self-esteem you have, and it's like, oh, well, I've got rejection, I'm just going to go ahead, go away and not take any risks in life, because why bother? If I get rejection, it's only going to reinforce the fact that I don't feel great about myself. But if you have a large battery or a large pile of chips, and you're you're taking chances, right? You're gambling with your self-esteem, and you get bigger payoffs, right? You can take more chances, you can take more risks than if you didn't have as much. So I thought those were really interesting analogies. But today's topic is, specifically, is self-discipline related directly to self-esteem? I mean, almost could you build your self-esteem by increasing your amounts of self-discipline? I think so. I think one absolutely builds on the other. And self-discipline, I think specifically, it shows up in our routines. It shows up in our routines of the things that we do every single day. There was a very popular commencement speech from I believe he was a Navy commander who was in a SEAL team, right? So his dude was a high-performing operator. And one of the things he says was, get up every day and make your bed. You get up every day and you make your bed, because when you made your bed, that's the first thing you've done that gives you a win for the day. So if the worst case scenario, you have the worst day ever. At least you come back home to a bed that's already made. And that was really interesting. And it's those small acts of self-discipline that you do every day, right? And that's something that I have noticed, that as my self-esteem has gotten better and better and better, and certainly there's those demons that sneak in, and and sometimes when we get more success in our lives, those demons get louder, those voices get louder. But I've noticed that when I've established very clear routines of things that I am worthy of, things that I do every single morning, I get up roughly around the same time, give or take 20 minutes, but generally around the same time. Do I have to? I mean, I own multiple businesses. Do I actually have to be the first one at work? No, but I often am. It's rare that I'm not, actually. Do I have to go to the office on Saturdays? I don't. But I choose to, because those are my best times. It's my best energy, and I absolutely love what I do. Because I'm either sharpening the saw, I'm getting things prepared for either a coaching session that I'm getting ready to have with a client that maybe is having a really difficult time, and I want to make sure I have my thoughts organized and so I can best coach them. But if I'm kind of doing that on the fly, I'm not doing myself justice, right, in terms of what I'm bringing to the table, and I'm sure not doing any justice to my client, right? So that act of self-discipline, it builds on my self-esteem just because in the routines that I do, right? So in these small routines, whether that's working out or eating healthy or getting up at the same time. In the morning I have the same rituals. I get up, I read the Bible, I watch a Bible study show that every morning. I read some more on other things. I pray, I do affirmations. I mean, I do all these things, and I do them in a usually pretty laid out order. I don't vary from that often. Sometimes I do. If it's nice out, I might go outside and read a little bit longer and skip the Bible study. But those are the sorts of things that I do every day. Weekends, I have a weekend ritual, right? I do things a little bit differently, but I think those routines really do help establish a certain level of self-esteem. I think the self-discipline also shows up in our habits. Like if we have a habit of not finishing things. I think I talked about this maybe the other day, about touching something once. And if something comes on my desk, and I will wax and wane from this, because I certainly don't want my staff going, he's lying, that's not true. Sometimes the stack on my desk gets a little bit out of control. That's because I stopped that habit of touching something as few times as possible. So if something comes on my desk, or if there's a piece of mail or something like that, I want to touch it as few times as possible. So if I get a bill and I'm like, oh crap, I don't have the money to pay that bill right now, I might set it aside because it's not in my budget to pay it this month. I might wait and pay it next month, or I have to scan that and get it over to somebody so I know they will know how to pay it, or something along those lines, whatever that is, right? But I don't. That's something that I've had to do over time. Now it's not so much of a big deal, and I've got money to pay, most bills unless they're really outrageous. But now I've got this bill in my hand. Now I'm going to go scan it right now. I'm not going to wait and set it aside and then I touch it 10 more times. And there's no point in that. It's just wasting time, right? So those habits are really, really important. Getting into the habit of finishing things, getting in the habit of touching something once, getting in the habit of not opening my email and checking it 52 times a day, right? Those sorts of things. But I think self-discipline also shows up in the conversations that we have. The conversations that we have that are healthy for us, and conversations that we have that are not healthy for us. Conversations where you get sucked into complaining, right? I mean, and oftentimes we end up complaining to someone that has no impact on the outcome, right? Like, it's one thing to come home and vent, but it's another thing to come home and just harp on the same thing over and over and over. And it's like, well, if I went home and complained to my bride about something that is completely out of her control, what am I accomplishing? I'm getting her all fired up and pissed off, and now I'm not really feeling like a whole heck of a lot better. And still the problem still exists, right? Why not bring the problem to somebody that can actually solve the problem, right? Or why go to work and complain about something that my bride has done? Go to my bride, right? I'm going to go to Jen and say, hey, Jen, when you did this, it upset me. We need to talk about it, right? that sort of thing. So why we have to be self-disciplined in our conversations, something that I have to be careful of too, right? Because it's fun. So, I mean, people are interesting. Sometimes it's fun to gossip, but gossip is rarely effective. It's rarely serves a purpose, and almost always it's about something that is tearing someone else down, right? So conversations like that. But also keep in mind the conversations that we have within ourselves. If it's like, man, that was stupid. Why did I do that? Right? Again, if I talk to my best friend the same way I talk to myself, he wouldn't be my best friend anymore. He'd tell me to go pack salt and, quit being such a jackass. Well, the internal conversations that we have with ourselves is also incredibly important and shows up in our self-discipline. I think finally, though, to wrap this up, self-discipline also shows up specifically in our boundaries, in the boundaries that we set for one another. I was so incredibly proud of my bride the other day because she stood up for herself in a way that was really, really important for her to do that. And I'm not going to get into the details of it because that's her story, but it was great to see her do that. And it was great to see her do that in a way where it didn't come across as her being, bitchy or anything along those lines. It was her standing up, valuing her worth because it went beyond a boundary that she was not willing to cross. And I thought that was really, really amazing. So again, if you're looking at all these ways that you're building, and you're honing your self-discipline, I can't imagine how that would not make you feel better about yourself and increase your self-esteem. Make that pile of self-esteem poker chips bigger. Make that self-esteem battery bigger. So when you want to take risks, that's going to deplete that battery some or take some pile of some of those chips away. It's not such a big hit. So, that way, okay, if you didn't get the result that you wanted, again, there's no failure, right? It's only just you didn't get the results that you wanted. You didn't attach yourself to the results. You didn't attach yourself to the outcome, but you didn't get the result you wanted. Then you move on, and it's not that big of a hit to your self-esteem. So yeah, I think there is a direct connection to self-discipline and self-esteem. And if you've got a story that you'd like to share, put it in the show notes. I'd like to hear about that because and not certainly that I am the expert in every area, but this is one of the areas where I feel like I've done a lot of self-reflection on this and wanted to share that with you guys today. And that's all I have for today. So really quick, if you want a free copy of the Time Wealthy Investor 2.0, you can head over to landlordcoach.com/videos. And of course, as you saw scrolling along the bottom of the page, if you want to join the discussion in the Time Wealthy VIP Lounge, you can just click on the group page, fill out the information, and we'll get you in there. That is all I have for today, folks. So please be sure to place a value on your free time, because if you don't, someone else will. But most important, there is no amount of money that will make time irrelevant. Have a great day. I'll see you guys next time.